Yo, welcome everyone to another episode of Weird Growth, the podcast where we hear about the strange and often unpredictable journeys which startup founders find themselves on. This episode we have Kate Kirwin, the founder of She-Codes and senior leader at Spacecubed, which is Western Australia's spiritual home of startups. Thank you, Kate, so much for joining us.
Yeah, excited to be here today.
It's wonderful to have you. Please, how would you introduce yourself?
As you said, founder of She-Codes.
Yep.
Lover of creating things.
Nice.
I think everything in my life comes back to creating things and driven by people and purpose. And my motto is always bring the sparkle. So you can usually find me I had glitter on last night. So there's
Nice.
still every time I turn my hand over, there's another piece of pink glitter. But physical and theoretical glitter, there's always some kind of glitter going on somewhere.
Thank you for bringing a sparkle to Weird Growth. My 3-year-old daughter would love you. Before we get stuck into your story, I have a pop quiz, which we ask everyone on Weird Growth. If you were to start a brand new business from scratch today, what would you be doing and who would you be helping?
Oh, that is a hard question. And I have not thought about this.
That's all right.
That's
the whole purpose of a pop quiz.
throw the hard questions at the beginning. We might talk about this today anyway, but I am also a hula hooper. So I have been doing hula hoop classes with someone that I met from Spacecubed about 7 years ago. So I've been doing that for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And there's all of these crazy random things that I want to construct in my hula hooping world. At the moment...
Well, like a square hoop?
Well, at the moment, I've been working on this concept of this LED dress that I want to wear.
Amazing.
/build / program.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fun. And there's a whole heap of physical LED hoops and cool accessories and things. So I don't know it's profitable or worth it, but
no, they always say the money is in the niche, right? So, hula hooping's, a pretty cool market, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Lucrative. Nice one. Well, that sounds really cool. Thanks for that. What's the problem that you're solving with She-Codes? I mean, a bit of background, I suppose. Over 6,000 women now have been through a program learning how to code with She-Codes.
Yeah.
Over 75% end up with a job placement.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is that problem that you solve?
So originally the problem that I was solving was trying to solve my own problem. I was trying to learn to code and just found that there wasn't a very good community that existed for, particularly for beginners, but of that subset of beginners, women more particularly, there just wasn't a lot of communities that were safe and welcoming and fun for people at that kind of early stage. So that was the original problem we're solving. We're still solving that, but we're also solving the skills shortage in tech. So as you probably know, the amount of demand for technical jobs has just gone through the roof. So we need, the latest stats is we need another 1 million people in tech by 2025.
Wow.
For Australia.
Just in Australia?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Which is insane. And there's no, through university, formal education, the current methods, we're not going to get there if we don't start doing things pretty differently. So solving that problem, we're also solving the diversity problem. So giving women the opportunity to learn, but also working with businesses and with men on how do we do better and support people who are in the industry so that they stay. And then providing community and rebranding the tech ecosystem.
What makes that so important, having more women involved in tech?
Yeah, so the current stats is there's only 29% of tech is female. And when you look at that in actual developer roles, it's more like 10%.
Wow.
So lots of companies and lots of teams will have the one token female.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's not ideal.
Yep.
And that's a problem for a lot of reasons. So diversity makes teams usually more productive, more fun, but they're also making better products. So I'm sure that there's things that we've all seen that you look at it and you're like, this was not designed for the end user in mind. The thing that I talk about a lot is fitness watches and stuff, and you're looking at the apps and you're like, none of these activities are things that women do. And like, where is, dance and like all of like yoga, like where are all of those kinds of activities? And I think it's changing a little bit now, but even kind of 4 or 5 years ago,
Yep.
it was all like, you have to be rugby or basketball or running. Like you can't do yoga. That's not a sport.
Okay.
So yeah, then you've got you're excluding kind of half of your target market if you're not designing for your end user in mind. And yeah, getting a little bit more empathy with the target customers.
Yeah,
Women still make a lot of the decisions for commercial household purchases.
Almost all of them.
So like it just seems crazy to me that
In my house anyway. Yeah, well that's really cool, Kate. And well done on what you've done, in creating that. It's a wonderful thing for, the ecosystem and for, the tech space in general. So good work. How did you reach your very first participants?
Yeah, so our original journey, and I think people assume that I just like had this idea and started this thing and and it's all this like nice little linear growth pathway, which
that's what everyone thinks when they look from the outside, right?
It's just
overnight
definitely
success.
Not what happens. So this originally started, I met Marcus Holmes, who was quite involved in the Perth ecosystem many years ago.
Yeah, shout out to Marcus, the gentleman technologist.
Yes, good guy. He came to me. He was actually the first coding presentation I ever went to, was something that he delivered.
Wow.
And then he was like, I want to run something for women, but I don't want to be the one like organizing everything. I don't want to be the face of it. Like, I need some help. I'll help you find developers to mentor if you can help me find women and help me organize the event logistics and all of that kind of stuff. So we ran as a committee for the first event. So it was me and him and a couple of other people. And we ran in that structure for about a year and a half. And then pretty much everyone moved away. Then it was at this point of like, do we let it die or do I keep running with it and grow it? And I did, and here we are.
What helped you make the decision to continue on after the rest of the committee had moved away?
So our demand was crazy. And
You're
I
right.
guess the answer to your question that you just asked of how we find participants is everything's been like viral organic, which is amazing. Like a lot of these people, I don't know where they find us, but they saw it on Facebook and it got shared a bunch of times. And then their friends of friends of friends told them, which is the best kind of marketing you can get.
Sure is.
I don't think we paid for any marketing. For one-day workshops, I don't think we've ever paid for anything.
Amazing.
Which is super exciting.
Yeah.
So we had all these participants coming to us of like, we want to do things, we want to learn. We were selling out constantly. And then I had BHP come to us and were like, hey, do you want to work with us? We can help you. We can give you mentors. We can maybe give you some money. Like, how do we help this grow? And that was around the time that all my committee members left. I'm like, I've got someone who wants to give me money to do a thing.
Wow.
And I've got participants who want to learn a thing. I guess I do the thing.
Yeah.
I guess I do the thing.
Well, how did that feel when BHP approached you to ask to run a program? That's nuts.
Yeah, it was a bit nuts. It was literally a cold email
What?
and it went to an inbox that I wasn't checking, so I didn't get it for like 2 weeks. And they still had coffee with me, even though I was like, hey, sorry, I ignored you for 2 weeks.
Just treat them mean, keep them keen, Kate.
Whoops. But yeah, pretty crazy. And that conversation was some of his team had come along and mentored, and they realized there were a bunch of guys talking about diversity and needed to kind of roll up their sleeves to get their hands dirty and
walk the talk.
Yeah, do something about it rather than kind of complain about it. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy, pretty weird to have someone cold email you because that never happens.
You know you're onto something when that stuff starts coming out of the blue.
Yeah.
So you get this amazing opportunity to run a program with BHP. What happened then?
Yeah, so our original conversation with them was around partnering on a workshop level. So it was quite a small engagement, kind of testing the waters. And we've been working with them since then. So that would have been 2015. So it's been quite a long time that we've been kind of having conversations with them. We then, I think in 2017, started having a conversation about Plus, which is our 6-month program. And that conversation took 2 years. So 2 years from when we first raised this idea of how do we transition people from very early stage, I know something about tech to I'm ready to be employed as a junior developer. How do we make that process go faster? And yeah, that was a very long conversation, but got that signed off in 2019 and kicked off the first program in Perth and then in Brisbane in 2020.
Wow. And what are the results been like? So for people who are going through that program, what happens for them at the end?
Yeah, so about 75% of them ended up in jobs. And
with BHP or just with others?
With others, with everyone.
Amazing.
Lots of different kinds of jobs, which is also really cool. Like some of them are developers, some of them have been working on using their technical skills in like other ways, in engineering teams and things like that.
So good.
Yeah, really, really good group of amazing women.
Yep.
And a bunch of them have come back as mentors as well, which I think is really exciting, seeing them do the next wave.
Yeah, that's nice.
And Sophie, who was part of the last cohort in Perth, or 2 cohorts ago, I guess, ended up teaching a bunch of last year's girls, or the girls who've just finished. She taught 2 modules of the program for them. So someone who less than 12 months ago was a learner who knew very fundamentals in less than a year is in a place that she can actually teach the content and inspire these people.
Wonderful.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. And I'm super proud of like where they've all gone and watching them get promotions and win awards. A bunch of them have won like Whitmore Awards and have been nominated for other bits and pieces. So I think, in the next couple of years, we're going to see them taking over the world. I bet.
No doubt. When did you realise that, hey, like this is serious, we're onto something here? What did that feel like?
I don't know if there's one defining moment. I think there's been a bunch of things where there was one workshop that we had in 2017 that I remember we had tickets went in 3 hours for the workshop. We had 120 people register.
Oh my goodness.
3 hours. So I like to joke that, we're like more popular than a Justin Bieber concert. Reference probably a little old now, but for the time, I feel like we're more popular than Justin Bieber. But yeah, in 3 hours, tickets went, and we had a waiting list of 500 people to come to a workshop. And I don't think what we're doing is groundbreaking. Like it's just teaching a little bit of HTML, CSS, a little bit of Python. You get lunch, you get a cupcake. But to have 500 people join a wait list and almost all of them email me like, oh, hey, I'm on the wait list, but like, can I come? Can I just turn up? Can I just wait in the lobby? And I'm like, no.
This is why we have
wait list work, guys. But that was pretty crazy.
What do you think it is that was really driving that demand?
I think that the way we've built our brand is there's a lot of like FOMO around it. And there's this thing that we only coined the term a couple of years ago, but we call it the Cupcake Effect. And so the Cupcake Effect is the way that an event makes you feel, that it's something that's personalized and it's more than just practical stuff. It's the nice stuff.
Yeah.
So the Cupcake Effect for us is having actual cupcakes because everyone loses it over the cupcakes. Because it isn't just functional food. It's branded and it's pretty.
Yeah.
You can put it on Instagram.
Special. Yeah.
So there's the physical cupcakes, but there's also little things like having stickers or having little decorative elements. It's the way that we communicate and the way the mentors are and having a dance break in the afternoon and just like all the little tiny small things that you think don't make a difference, but on experience they do. Like they don't make a difference on learning outcomes, but on experience.
An emotional level.
Yeah, that's super important.
What do you think startup and tech people can learn from? I mean, you're from an events background, right? And you're applying that to this. What do you think we can learn about that from a growth point of view?
Yeah, I think like understanding what your end users care about, both on the what do they care about from your product? So like, what does it actually need to do? People are coming to this fundamentally because they want to learn to code.
Yep.
Cool. But then like, how does that make them feel? And what are they looking for outside of the one thing that you're doing? So Can you make them feel special? Can you make them feel like they're part of something? Can you make them feel like they have a community? Like, is there any of those other things that you can do tapping in on an emotional level? And then I think how the brand represents that as well. So one of our key values is that we're fun.
Yeah.
And that's really important.
Yeah.
Like looking for the fun, and it doesn't have to be super serious all the time. Like I can have a conversation with BHP, but I can also like just be fun and have a little hula hoop break in the corner.
Yeah, no, it's so important. I mean, you know, what could otherwise be a very dry and, you know, dare I say, boring topic, you've got to find ways to make appealing, especially if it's a cohort of people who otherwise wouldn't normally be attracted to going to try that out in the first place.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people really worried about fun because they're like, it has to be super serious for some reason.
Yeah.
And I don't think the world, especially in Australia, like you can really get away with like a little bit of professional and a bit of fun.
You know, like, I guess a software example is Slack, you know, like a really dry and boring potentially product, you know, just work chat. But even just the language that they use in the onboarding process, and it's just all a little bit quirky and out there and stuff that you wouldn't expect. And it does add up to a bigger part of the experience. And it sets the tone for how to use the product too, on more of a social level than just a strictly corporate boring kind of thing. Yeah. So, yeah, no, really good point, Kate. That's great. And I think we talk about it in terms of, we talk about 7-star experience. So everyone expects the 5-star experience. That's what you're paying for, and that's what the standard service, you know, should be delivered. But then what are the things that you can take it to a 6 or potentially even a 7-star experience? And that's probably been a factor of your growth. I would suggest, it sounds like it, that people tell their friends when they have those wow moments. Yeah. That's when I
think more people probably talk about the cupcakes than they do about like the Python tutorial, you know, which, you know, blessing and a curse. Like, would be good to actually talk about the tech, but the cupcakes are what they're there for, and you just got to lean into it and just go with it.
Love it. Spacecubed turned 10 recently.
It did,
which is very special. And I said earlier, it's the spiritual home of WA startup scene, and you've been involved since pretty early on, maybe only 1 or 2 years in. What are some of your favourite memories and, you know, sort of highlights for you?
Yeah, I've been feeling so nostalgic the last couple of weeks since the birthday.
Yeah, it's funny once you get like a certain distance from things, nostalgia kicks in, right?
Yeah, it's so weird. So when I started, it was 8 years ago. So I was employee number 4 after Brody, Ophelia, Tom, and then me and Claire started at the same time. Claire's not with us anymore, but I was so young. I was 21.
Wow.
I started just before my final exams for uni because I like to do everything backwards.
There you go, Phoebe. She's in final semester at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I don't know why. I could have waited like 2 weeks and done it after exams finished, but I decided to start before exams because I'm crazy.
Take on a challenge.
But yeah, I didn't know anything about startups or tech or anything. I just knew events.
Yep.
Coming into this ecosystem where everything's like so different from what I was used to. But yeah, favourite moments. My first day was the level 9 launch party. And that was also a bit crazy. Yeah. Because I was introduced to about 200 people that night. And I don't remember much of that, but it was super overwhelming. But to see where we were from that level 9 launch party, level 9 was so hacky in the way that we got it to work. And we had a crowdfunding campaign to do the
names
fit out
on the wall and stuff.
Which was like a 50k fit out.
Yeah.
And then seeing the other fit outs that we've done since
probably about 20k of that was on pallets.
Brody and his dad making furniture to pull the space together. Then seeing all the other spaces that were open since then. So we did a refit of Riff, Open Riff Level 4, Flux, Fern. Seeing all of those spaces come together, that's pretty crazy. I also got to do some stuff with Plus 8. So I was running the program with Plus 8 for 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I went to San Francisco twice with Tim Brewer and got up to some chaos over in San Francisco. Did something like 43 meetings in 10 days on my second San Francisco trip, which would not recommend. Did not sleep enough, but really good to just get right in the thick of things. And
were you there in the first cohort for Plus 8?
At the end.
With Hum? Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, nice one. Yeah, well, I love Plus 8. I think it's just got to be one of the best accelerator programs in the world. Just, how, I don't know, I guess it's a real camaraderie amongst the participants. It's a very warm and welcoming kind of environment. It's really nice.
It's been really nice when we've gone to San Francisco because they gave us feedback that our startups are really tenacious and gritty compared to even East Coast startups, and especially compared to San Francisco startups, because there's so much more money over there that they don't have to.
There's a lower bar.
Work as hard.
Yeah.
But WA startups are like, by the time they're at fundraising level, they've usually been going at it for a while. They've been told no lots of times.
Yep.
They've built something that's, just a little bit more gritty than the fail fast kind of attitude that's in San Francisco.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear. I have two little girls, dad of two little girls, and I'm keen to learn what we can do as parents for kids to at least introduce them to the concept of, STEM and coding and things. Like, what are the things that you would recommend young parents to do?
Yeah, I think it's really about normalizing STEM as a career pathway. What we're told a lot of the time is it is around sort of high school that girls are told, no, like you're not smart enough or you're not nerdy enough or like crazy things. One of our alumni did a video for me a couple of weeks ago, and she was told by her teacher in high school that she was too fun to do physics.
What does that even mean?
Right? She's told me that a bunch of times, and I'm like, I still don't even know what that means. But he was like, you're just so bubbly and fun. You shouldn't be in a lab because you won't have anyone to talk to and you'll be really bored. So you should do something where you can be more fun and bubbly, like business. So she did. And then now in her 30s is now pivoting back into tech, which is what she wanted to do the whole time.
God.
So that's really dumb.
Yeah.
So just don't do that.
Yeah.
But I think it's about exposing opportunities and trying to make it as fun and relatable as possible. So there's like a million different tutorials. I think code.org has different games and things you can do that are themed on like Minecraft or Frozen. Or,
wow.
Lots of
Frozen
different
one will be
things.
popular in my house.
Yeah. So just like trying to make fun things that aren't really dry and boring, and just trying to connect it back to
the Cupcake factor.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. No, that's. And do you think parents need to be, sort of conscious of this and proactively doing something, or is it something where society is just changing anyway?
I think probably both. I think definitely telling kids that it is an option and they can do whatever they want to, because unfortunately it does feel like in the schooling system, I think most of those teachers with outdated views are changing or going. But there is still this like weird societal thing that we, when we say someone in tech, everyone thinks of a guy wearing a hoodie in a basement with like lines of code washing over his face. Yeah. This is fine. But like that's still the idea of someone in tech, is they're like some like hacker person who's trying to like rob a bank.
Yep. Or a propeller head like in a lab.
And that's just not the kind of people that are actually in tech.
Yep.
So I think we've got to tear down a bunch of those views, and I think the more different places you can hear that from and normalize that like actually people in tech are just normal people. But
mostly.
Like a little weird,
no, well said. That's awesome. Thanks, Kate. What could possibly be next for the future for She Codes and for you?
Yeah, so we've got pretty ambitious goals. Our crazy target is to create a community of 100,000 people in tech by 2025.
Wow.
So we've taught 6,000 people to date. So it's only like, 94,000 more in the next 3 years.
Yep.
We've got pretty crazy targets, and we're just launched in Sydney. So we've got a 6-month program happening with VGW in Sydney in a month's time. We're launching a program in Melbourne, just a 1-day workshop in Melbourne at the end of the year.
Oh, superb.
Plus Brisbane, plus Perth.
Yep.
And some stuff happening in regional areas around the country as well. Lots more growing, and then hopefully seeing our more of our alumni getting into jobs and taking over the world.
What's your take on the sort of tech ecosystem in the eastern states, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, compared to Perth?
I think what I've heard is that Brisbane's very similar to Perth. There's a lot of things that the lifestyle is similar, the weather is similar, population size is similar. So that was why we picked Brisbane as our second location after Perth.
Yeah, nice.
There's just a bunch of reasons why it made sense.
Yep.
But the tech community there are lovely. It's very close knit. Everyone knows everyone.
Yeah, we've just come back from there a couple of weeks ago, and it was absolutely exactly like that. Very welcoming. Yeah, it was really,
So really lovely in Brisbane. We haven't done obviously a lot in Sydney. I only just launched a couple of weeks ago now, but really excited to see what's going to kind of happen there. There seems to be some really cool people there too. I think it's a busy market.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's a lot busier. There's a lot more stuff going on. And we haven't done a lot of Melbourne in the past, but I know when I was there a few years ago, the community was a little bit disjointed. There's a lot of people doing things and not talking to each other.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the benefits of being in WA is there is, like you said, Spacecube's the spiritual home of startups. But there are these little hubs where everyone kind of comes together and talks to each other.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that happens in Sydney and Melbourne, but keen to see if there's a role that we can play in kind of bringing that together. And
well, the New South Wales state government has built this startup hub and brought together a number of the co-working / accelerator spaces into one building. And that's, quite an amazing feat, and obviously investing a lot of money into that. So, I think everywhere in Australia at least is seeing the value of having an ecosystem like this in their city and growing that industry, for their state. So, it's really exciting just to be in Australia in general, I think. It's great.
Yeah, definitely.
What's one big piece of advice you have for founders who are looking to grow?
So I always say it never hurts to ask, especially if you need help or advice or an intro to someone. Everyone here is so welcoming and nice. If you just ask in a nice way, people are probably going to say yes. I hear a lot of people, especially who are new to the ecosystem or are young, they're like, oh, that person's really busy and important. They wouldn't reply to me. It can't hurt to ask. The least you're going to get is a no or an ignored email, which no skin off your back if that happens.
Yeah, what's the worst? But
what's going to happen?
The most likely thing is the reason that person is busy and successful is because they're helpful first.
Yeah.
That's how you get into those positions, is because you actually take a view that you be helpful first and then good things will happen. And that's just the right attitude to have. So, you should always be looking for opportunities to give back or help someone else up who's just starting out.
Yeah, definitely. So that, and then I think listening to your customers, I see that a lot, especially people who haven't validated well with their customers in the early stages, spend a bunch of money on things and don't talk to anyone if they actually want it. But then once you're growing, really just keeping on the finger on the pulse of what your customers want the whole way through. And don't be afraid to ask them what they actually want. So I ask my community all the time if I'm torn on something.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? What's the next program that you want? What are the problems that you're having?
How do you do that?
A little bit of a mix. So we've sent out surveys.
Yep.
Sometimes I ask on our Slack channel. There's a bunch of people who I know will give me really good advice. So I'll go and approach them one-on-one. I'm having this, dilemma. This is where I think that I'm going to go with this. Keen to get some feedback. I think there's a lot of people who are scared about getting feedback because they're worried that, they're customers and that would be a weird relationship. But I think most of the time your customers want to have the opportunity to give you feedback. Yeah,
no, I think it's a normal emotional response to have, getting the fear of negative feedback or whatever it is. But the truth is it's not negative or positive. It's just good, honest feedback, and it helps you make better decisions. All the answers aren't in your head. So
it's just a data point.
Yeah.
And you don't have to listen to it.
Right, bang on. But more often than not, it's going to be something that's really useful to know.
Yeah.
Great tip. Okay, show and tell time. We ask guests to share their favourite tool or device or software or whatever it is that makes your...
Hey everyone, Jack from Ammo here. At this point our audio cut out, so I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of what Kate was talking about. She spoke about how she uses Slack as her go-to communication tool. She has one for internal amongst the team and then one for externally facing cohorts that she has within She Codes and the communities there. She'll even use it as a feedback forum for customers. So She Codes participants will be able to get feedback on React, Java, whatever they're building, almost like a friendlier version of Stack Overflow. So a really handy tool and something that you can use even customer facing as well, not just something that's internal. The next tool that Kate swears by and she talked about was HubSpot. She uses it for automating emails, workflows, and even syncing up things within her calendar for one-on-one meetings. Really handy tool. You can find the links to both of these in the comments section below, and we'll also link them in the show notes for you guys who are on the website or elsewhere online. Finally, if you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review on Spotify or on other podcast channels. This helps us get up there in the feeds. And if you want to learn more about She Codes and the amazing work that Kate's doing in the space, we've linked to her details in the comments below and shecodes.com.au. Thanks for listening to this episode, guys. You can find more Weird Growth at weirdgrowth.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks a lot. Ciao.